Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the new Democratic darling, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the 28-year-old former waitress turned politician who's currently running for Congress in New York. She popped up out of nowhere a few months back, surprising many with her starkly socialist, virtually communist platforms and policy plans. Some say she has the Democratic Party a bit divided too, between the more rational, more center, realist Democrats who actually want a chance at winning and convincing fence-sitting voters to support them, versus the new, full-blown socialist, extremist route, which Alex has taken up. She's pretty much the successor to Bernie Sanders. She's like Bernie without the experience, or without the ability to actually articulate her ideas and plans. Cortez still hasn't been able to directly answer the question which all her socialist plans beg. How will she pay for all this free shit? Alexandria really doesn't have an answer yet, and it really shows too. We've seen many of her cringe-inducing attempts to answer this in interview after interview lately, and it's actually kind of getting old. It's like basically Alexandria is going with a bribery plan here. Her and other socialists want to make loads of promises when they're running, and then if they ever get into office, sure, they might even pay for a few of the benefits, but without any plan to direct the funding from somewhere, these socialists just create more problems down the road. They don't think ahead. They're simple, emotional, and in-the-moment creatures who are really no good for this nation, and they have no plans to fix things either. Really, their only plan is to get elected, and after that, they just cash their paychecks and milk the system for all it's got. That brings us to today's video. Alexandria Cortez recently appeared on MSNBC in a weak, pandering softball interview with Chris Hayes on his All In show. And the reason everyone has been talking about this interview is because when Chris asks Alex what she's going to do after she wins, she gives the most absurd, nonsensical, word salad answer possible. It really makes no sense, and it clearly shows she has no plans beyond getting elected. So today, we're going to go over that part of the interview and eventually get to her word salad answer and more. But first, let's start from the beginning of that segment. Here's a video from MSNBC called "Our Job is to Listen to Our Communities." Check this out.
I think that we're going to be really committing very hard, not just to organizing through November, but also organizing through the next 4-6 years, I think. And we really just need to take this country and bring it back to the basics of democracy.
Hey Alex, for your information, this country is a republic, not a democracy. I know liberals like to scream democracy every chance they get, but all that does is show how ignorant you really are. The United States of America is a constitutional republic, which sure, that is a representative democracy to be fair, but that's also not a true democracy actually. A true democracy has all the members voting and deciding policies and law themselves. The citizens decide, while a republic elects representatives to do the governing and policy making for us. Got it? Okay, good. And I hate to bore you guys and explain this basic 8th grade civics stuff like this, but when dum-dums like Alexandria Cortez come around, I think it's important we spell this out and stay informed, because clearly the Democrats need a refresher course. I apologize if you guys don't.
When you hear things about get in their face, bother people at every restaurant where you can find a cabinet member, these are coming from public service that ought to set an example of civility in American society. And it's been made worse by what has happened to Judge Kavanaugh.
Well put, Senator, and I don't get why Alex feels the need to have this smug as hell smile here. She's almost laughing when the senator suggests that we be more civil and not encourage our citizens to harass others in public, much like how the Democratic politician Maxine Waters has done repeatedly. Sure, the Democrats pretend they're being civil and they're just saying words and expressing their freedom of speech, but the left has certainly gone beyond words in many cases recently. Antifa, for example, comes up, and they've had many riots and violence that has spread across the country. People are getting hurt and abused, make no mistake. Hell, remember that one pro-choice guy from the news recently who kicked that girl in the face for going against abortions? That guy sure wasn't using his words. So clearly this has gone well beyond words, and the left knows it too. But losers like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they think violence and intimidation is okay, as long as their side is doing it.
American democracy is built by the people, for the people. It is our attempt at Americans pursuing self-governance. But, you know, I think if a lot of these Republican senators are upset at the reaction that's going on, maybe they should stop running away from their town halls. Maybe they should visit their constituents. Maybe they should pick up the phone. Maybe they should answer emails.
But visiting constituents and checking emails has nothing to do with this senator being against mob rule and the increasingly violent left. I don't know where this dodge of Alex's is going here, but it's certainly not related to the clip from the Senate we just watched. And I think it's pretty rich for a Democrat to tell Republicans to visit their people and check their emails, especially after Hillary Clinton, who failed failed bigly at both of those fronts. Trump and the Republicans are the party of the people. Hell, Trump is still holding rallies with packed crowds across the country all the time. Democrats are the ones who need to get in touch with the Americans more, clearly. And they're also the ones who have trouble with emails. Like Hillary, who got caught deleting thousands illegally. And also there's Anthony Weiner, who got caught with such scandalous emails, he's now in jail for them. And if you thought this dodging and made up nonsense from Alexandria was already bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. Next, we get into her real word salad answer when she's asked how she will work with these Republican politicians in the future and what her plan is after winning her election.
I think a lot of it has to do with changing our strategy around governance. You know, there's a lot of inside baseball and inside the beltway, as you always hear that term thrown around. But there are very few organizers in Congress, and I do think that organizers operate differently.
I think you see what I'm saying. She all of a sudden says something about inside baseball out of nowhere, and then she's talking about inside the beltway, saying it's a phrase you always hear people say. Not me, though. I just heard you say that phrase, Alex, and it sounded really weird and unrelated to this question, which is asking what you're going to do in office. Acknowledging inside baseball or inside the beltway is not a plan for action. It's a dodgy answer which makes no sense.
It's a different kind of strategy, and what it is really about organizing and really thinking about that word, organizing, segmenting people, being strategic in their actions.
First, she fixated on the phrase inside the beltway. Now she's going in really hard on organizing. Organizing what, though? I think the question was asking what your plans are, like what changes and policies you will make. But being a good organizer doesn't really sound like anything to me. I think everyone organizes things in some way. This is like saying, I want to be a great listener. I just want to get into Congress and listen to everyone. Listen until my ears fall off. Both listening and organizing mean nothing unless you tell us what you're going to do with that, Alex. So come on now, get your shit together, lady.
In really bringing together a cohesive strategy of putting pressure on the chamber instead of only focusing on the pressures inside the chamber.
That's a really interesting thought.
Is it? Is it really that interesting, Chris? Because I think Alex just put a bunch of random words together which really mean nothing. And that's why everyone is calling this word salad. That's the definition of word salad. And sure, we've seen Alex-Cortez blow it in interviews before many times, but this one is particularly troubling since the question is so direct and relevant. People want to know what politicians will do when they're elected. And clearly Alex doesn't have a clear answer, which is highly questionable. Apparently she's getting a free pass here, though, for being a Democrat. This is MSNBC after all, and her being a cute minority probably helped her get here too. But beyond a pretty face and being young and new for the Democrats, Alex-Cortez really offers nothing of value. And what's most disturbing is, back to what I mentioned earlier, Alex has shown her only real plan is to get elected, which she's doing by promising the world to her young, naive liberal voters. Whether or not those promises actually come to be is secondary. What's more important to Alex is winning and getting into power, and probably making some money off this. Next, Alex gets real weird when she talks about how she deals with her new supporters, thinking she's some sort of therapist or social worker or something. Check this part out.
Sometimes I feel like I have this job of being something of a social worker or even a therapist in my district, because this period has been so re-traumatizing for so many folks, and especially in a country where we do not have reliable access to health care, let alone affordable health care.
The only people re-traumatizing liberals right now is themselves. If they feel the need to freak out, cry, or rage quit or otherwise, that's on them. Let's not pretend Trump derangement syndrome is now the president's fault. He's got enough to worry about, really. People who can't stand a certain president or politician and it gets so bad that it affects their well-being, well, that's their own personal problem. They need therapy or they need to get their shit together. They must have emotional issues or something, weak wills or low confidence, because the Democrats sure are losing their shit lately. And I know Alex-Cortez loves to blame Trump and his policies for everything that's wrong in the world, but it's just not that easy, lady. And as for her thinking of herself as a social worker or therapist, well, I think that just goes to show how crazy the people are who support her. It's not well-together, hard-working, psychologically sound people who call in and show up to the rallies of Alex-Cortez and her socialist push. Not at all. Apparently it's a lot of crazy, batshit, emotionally unstable people Alex is dealing with. And I have to say, I'm really not surprised.
This has been a very difficult time for immigrants, for women, for survivors, for people who just care about the health of American democracy. It's very stressful. And so that listening diffuses a lot of the tensions in our communities, and it's a form of active work beyond just legislation or beyond just policy making.
Well, first of all, women and minorities are not the only ones having problems in our country. Men and whites have got shit to worry about too, so I don't appreciate Alex excluding them here. Your identity politics disgust me, frankly. And secondly, they are seriously going on about listening here, something I joked about earlier without having seen this part of the interview, and now it's coming up and being championed by Alex unironically. Organizing and listening are not virtues. issues though, lady. They are just weasel words and vague reasons you give because you have no real plan of action for when you get into office. In the end, we can see once again how useless and terrible this new upcoming Democrat really is. Not only is she pushing for socialism and communism, a system that never works and always drains away resources and the motivation of the people, well, not only that, not only is Alex a socialist, she's also an airhead who uses word salad answers filled with buzzwords in order to try and fake it and make people think she's smart and electable, but she's really not. There's a reason she was a bartender just a year ago. It's because that's about the only job she's qualified for. Nothing wrong with that either. I love bars and drinking, but why the hell would people vote for this airhead bartender when I know a much smarter guy tending my local bar down the street? His name's Kevin, and he's really knowledgeable actually. I met him at a trivia night there last summer, and he's a good dude. Knows a lot of shit too. Sure knows a hell of a lot more about this country and its government than Alex-Cortez, who doesn't even know we're a goddamn constitutional republic. What a joke. What do you guys think? Should Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez be elected into office? And what's up with her having such a long and hard to say name? Also, what do you think about her word salad answers here? And what about Alex thinking she's some kind of therapist for all her crazy supporters? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.